Hi, it's Tracy from Two Rocks Tarot, and today I am introducing a new series that I will be doing, Tarot Tips and Tricks. And this is just going to be a whole bunch of videos on things that I wish I had known when I first started to read the tarot. So of course the first subject matter will be touching on how to actually choose a deck. Now back when I started over, I don't know, it's well over 20 years ago. I thought it was actually 20, but I'm figuring it's more around the 27 mark now. All that I could find was the Rider-Waite. So that's what I actually started with, was the Rider-Waite Tarot. Now, as you can see, I'll be sharing some images, and they're going to be all of the full card, just so you can see the different types of decks. So the first one I'll be showing is actually the traditional tarot, so that you can see is the Rider-Waite deck is the first one. And the next one is the the Marseille Tarot, sorry. So of course the Marseille has been around many, many more years than the Rider-Waite deck. I believe the Rider-Waite was around 1910, something like that. And the Marseille goes way further back, I believe in the 1700s, I think. I'm not 100% sure because I don't actually really study the tarot in that way when it first appeared and so forth. So that's the, them two are the most, what have been around the longest, and what most people will start with. But still you'll find, even though the Marseille has been around a lot longer, most people gravitate towards the Rider-Waite Tarot because that's all that was ever professed back in books, back when I started to learn. I never heard of the other decks that I'm going to show you. The second row here we have got the Thoth Tarot. The round card is the Mother Peace Tarot, and the other one is the Fool from the Housewives Tarot. So as you can see, they are very, very different, aren't they? But they're all the same card. They are the Fool. The next row I'll be showing you is from the Handel Tarot, the Deviant Moon Tarot, the Mary L Tarot, and the Japandezi Tarot. So as you can see, this is all the same card, but just take a look at the artwork. It's all very, very different, isn't it? So how do you just choose a deck? Well, I have to say that you are a lot more, much more well off than what I was when I first started nowadays. So if you're just coming to the tarot, the last couple of years, probably I'd say maybe the last 10 years, you've got so much choices in decks, and it's going to be really, really, it'll probably be hard to actually pick out a deck to choose to read with. But still, when you look at all the books, most people will say to use the Rider-Waite deck. It's the most easiest deck because all the books are based on it. So I'm here to tell you, no, don't choose the Rider-Waite deck. What I'm here to tell you is to choose whatever deck appeals to you. What is the artwork? So what art speaks to you? So if you look at all these images that I chose, was there a particular one that grabbed you? Now the round Mother Peace deck has been around since the 80s as well, so it's been around for quite a long time. But I was only made aware of the Mother Peace, I think, when I met Nina. I was aware of it, but I never really paid much attention for it. I don't think I even realized it was around. Do you see what I mean? So of course, when you interact with people in the tarot community, when you have friends that read the tarot, and of course we've got YouTube now, our eyes are absolutely assaulted with different tarot images and different decks, and it can be really, really hard to choose. So basically what you have to do when you look at the images that I showed you, is there any deck that really caught your eye? Is there something that, that spoke to you about it? Now for me, I cannot stand the Marseille deck. I've never liked it. I've never liked the garish colours of it. It's just a deck that I absolutely cannot stand and have never read with and never will. I did buy one Marseille deck just to see how I went, and for life of me, I can't remember what it was called now. Anyway, I sold it. I can't remember. It just doesn't speak to me. The art does absolutely nothing for me. And this is what you have to look at when you're choosing a deck. You've really, really got to look at the artwork. Don't look at what other people tell you that you should buy. So if people say, oh no, you should only start with the Rider-Waite, it's absolute bullshit. You don't have to. I remember when I gave a tarot reading years ago to somebody, and she was so fascinated in it, she wanted to buy a deck. You have to excuse me, I'm still full of asthma. And I, being still fairly new back then, said, go and get a Rider-Waite deck. And then she actually rang the shop, and then she said, I'm really attracted to the Osho Zen. And then I thought, well, why should she use the Rider-Waite? And I said, go for it, pick that deck. And I've never ever since then said that you should buy the Rider-Waite to learn with. So, and then we go to the Thoth deck. This is another deck that I have never read with because I just don't like it. I'm not into Aleister Crowley. I never liked him. There's a lot of things I've read about him. You know, being on the sort of the witchy path that I was and am. He just didn't appeal to me, and I don't like the artwork either. It does absolutely nothing for me. It just doesn't do anything for me. So that's another deck that I haven't read with. I did read the Rider-Waite. I think I read with that for all of a year, and then I went on to the Hanson Roberts one. So it was still Rider-Waite, but it was a little bit softer, a little bit more prettier. So I read with that one. I bonded quite well with that deck, and I do still have that deck in my drawer, and every now and again I'll pull it out for a client who I think needs the more traditional type of images when I do my readings, because I do read professionally online. So now we'll come to the Mother Peace deck. So I've only had this deck for about a year now, and I love it. I really do. See, that artwork actually speaks to me, but my path has changed spiritually wise as well. So my spiritual path, even though I still class myself as a witch and a pagan, it's definitely gone more towards the, I don't even know how to describe it, because I describe myself as an eclectic pagan. So I do a bit of witchcraft, a bit of druidry, I do a bit of, I've just got a drum, so I'm starting to get into the shaman side. There's lots of things that I'm exploring now with my spirituality, and it's showing in the decks that I choose to read with. So I have, you know, I do really enjoy the Mother Peace deck. It speaks to me. The art is very primitive and it's very basic, but it really, really speaks to me. So that's what I mean when you know, you've got it, when you look at the cards, have a look at the colors, you know. Don't just look at the artwork, have a look at the colors. Do the colors appeal to you, or does it turn you off? Like the Marseille for me, to me, is way too garish. Oh, just grab another drink. I'm sorry about this. I'm absolutely full of it. I just can't get rid of it. Then we come to the Housewife deck. Now, I've always loved the 50s. I love the 50, you know, the fashion, just the, this deck really, really appeals to me, and it's a real sassy little deck. So all these different types of decks, they all have their own voices, as hard as that may seem to believe, especially when you're new. Because when you're new and you're looking at a deck, you think, oh my God, what does this mean? What does that mean? Do you know what I mean? But they all have their own individual voices. So for me, the Housewife deck is very, very very sassy and very smart aleck, and I love the book that comes with it. I'm not a guidebook person at all, but the book is quite funny to read, and I quite enjoy reading it. Whereas the Mother Peace is a very earthy type of a voice for me. It really is like Mother Earth is speaking to you, for want of a better way of saying it. Now, I haven't read much with the Handle deck at all, because I haven't actually got a physical copy. I've got a software license for Orphalese Tarot, which is a window-based program. So all these images have come from my decks that I've actually got on my laptop, and so I haven't read much with the Handle deck as well, because it's a deck that I've always looked at buying, but I haven't actually gone ahead. So I thought I'd download it on my computer and play around with it and see how I feel about it, because there's a few images that I don't like, so I'm still up in arms with that one. The Deviant Moon is a very, very funny story with the Deviant Moon. I hated that deck for, I can't even tell you how many years. It really, really, yeah, I just didn't like it. It didn't appeal to me at all. But I used to be on the Eclectic Tarot Forum, and we used to read for each other. And the lady, she actually picked this deck for me to read with, and I thought, oh, great, you know. But if I'll be damned, that deck is so good to read with. It's amazing. It's got such a quirky voice, I would say. My mum's German, and I remember my grandmother reading me books that had images very much like that in books, which were kind of a bit brutal, actually. I remember there was one where a boy used to always suck his thumb, and then his mother warned him before she, don't suck your thumb, and I can't remember what the name of the guy was. He's going to come and he's going to cut your thumb off, and I won't. And she went out shopping, and of course he stuck his thumb in his mouth, and the guy ran in and he chopped off his thumbs with a huge pair of scissors, and the figures very much looked like that. So I don't know if, because I'm a nail biter, so I don't know if that traumatized me. That's why I didn't like the Deviant Moon, but it really, really reads very, very well. It's very quirky. It's very out of the box type of a voice. You've really got to look at the images. The Mary L, I know a lot of people get, now this is another deck that I didn't like for a very, very long time until I went to Nina's house and she had it. And she picked out the second, I think it was the second edition, because I've got the second, not the first. And I looked at it, and I looked at it again, and I thought, gee, this is actually starting to talk to me. Another good sign is when you are looking for a deck is when the deck actually starts to speak to you. So if you're shuffling through a deck and you're getting messages by that deck because it's for you, it wants to talk to you, you know. But I'm going to touch on that subject too, probably a little bit later on, because there's another funny story. There's lots of different subject matters I'm going to talk about, but right now it's about talking to a deck. About choosing a deck. So the Mary L I absolutely love, but a lot of people get put off it because it's very religiously sort of, it's got a religious overtones to it, and I'm not religious at all, but that's not the way I read the deck. So I read it completely different, but again, I'll touch on it in further videos. And then we come to the Japandezi Tarot. Now I haven't got this deck, physical deck either. Excuse me. But I've heard a lot about it, and I wanted to play around with it again to see if I liked it, to see if I'd actually go out and buy it. So that's a good thing about Orphalese is you can actually try before you buy when it comes to your tarot decks. So anyway, so now when you are looking, so it's a really, I suppose, how do you choose? It's really, really hard. I suppose back when I started it was easy because I only knew of the one deck and that's what I grabbed. But the best thing to do is to really see if you're lucky enough to be able to hold a deck and shuffle it and actually starts talking to you by, to grab it, really do grab it. Also, if you try and, what type of art do you like in just in everyday life? Do you like abstract art? Do you like colourful art? Do you like more toned down type, beigey sort of a palette type of art? What you've got around you, what you surround yourself in your house is a good indicator to what type of artwork you might actually like when it comes to choosing a tarot deck. So, you might really like to surround yourself with bright, cheerful colours, and you wear colourful clothes. Well, then look for a deck that reflects that part of your personality. So that's another indicator anyway, is to, just look at what you actually like around you in the world and try and find a deck that reflects that about you. When it comes to storing your deck, I don't know if you can see, but behind me is my bookcase, and all of them little boxes, colourful gift boxes that you see, that's where I store my tarot decks in. I've got some in my cabinet that you can see in the mirror there, and they're all the ones that I store, in bags. So they're actually got in bags. I never keep the boxes. I think I did with the Housewives Tarot, and a few Oracle ones, that fit nicely and store nicely, but mostly they're, the terrible tuck boxes that fall to bits. So I just go to the reject shop. I take my deck with me, go to the reject shop, and I look at the boxes and see which one speaks to me and what the deck wants to actually be stored in, as funny as that sounds. But when you start working with tarot, you really start to get in touch with your intuition. And you should really listen to it, particularly when you first start, because you haven't got any prejudice towards it. You're only learning. So anyway, so that's the first, my first video in this series. I lost my train of thought now. And in the next one, I'm going to actually be explaining about the different systems of reading and should you do it or should you not. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'm going to try and keep these videos fairly short so I don't bore everyone to death, but just to give you a gist of just reading the tarot. So until next time, this is Tracy.